The night the tariffs finally snapped into place, house lights all over Kansas City flickered like dying embers in a hearth no one could afford to stoke. Dr. Nathan Keller stood by the sixth-floor window of St. Catherine's, watching the skyline ripple under a storm of neon vacancy signs. 3 months earlier, the White House had promised 90 golden days for allies to renegotiate. Now the reprieve was gone, the import arteries clamped shut by a single signature from President Donald Trump. Supermarket shelves had thinned, BMW dealerships displayed nothing but dust-flecked posters, and the last Tesla charging station in town powered down before dawn, its screen glitching through a looped clip of Elon Musk joking about Mars. Sirens wailed somewhere beyond the hospital campus. Nathan's pager chimed. Another trauma admission. Burns and blast injuries. Not unusual lately. In the opioid wards, they had begun stacking folding chairs to create makeshift bed frames because the shipment of CVS-ordered cots was stalled at the Canadian border, along with everything else. Down in the ER, the new patient reeked of scorched plastic. The attending nurse whispered that he'd been scavenging a shuttered military depot outside Independence when a booby trap detonated. Beneath the blistered skin, Nathan glimpsed soot that shimmered like the residue of something hotter than gasoline. He pressed a Geiger counter to the man's collarbone, and its frantic ticking swallowed every other sound. He froze. There had been rumors, gangs sniffing around decommissioned missile silos, the Missouri militia boasting on shortwave that federal bunkers were full of forgotten fireworks. The White House press team scoffed on television, but Nathan heard the counter braying its metallic truth. Faint radioactive dust clung to the patient's clothes. 3 miles away, an old Cold War alert siren stuttered to life and cut off mid-howl. The emergency broadcast system issued a shaky bulletin. Unverified localized detonation in Lawson County. Shelter in place. Within minutes, the hospital windows rattled, a soft concussion rolling over the city like giant footsteps in clouds. Lights dimmed again. Backup generators stuttered. Elevator doors locked in place. Nathan's mind sprinted through triage protocols. Potassium iodide, broad-spectrum antibiotics, anti-radiation cocktails. But the hospital pharmacy was a ghost town. Since the tariffs, their shipments came on trucks from Toronto once a month. Yesterday, customs officers in Buffalo had turned the convoy around. Canada had sealed its southern ports of entry and protest.
He looked at the burned scavenger, 1 patient tonight, hundreds tomorrow. Radiation sickness would bloom through the suburbs by morning, and there was not a single dose of filgrastim left on U.S. soil east of the Rockies. Unless someone crossed that border. In the parking lot behind St. Catherine's, Nathan's colleague Maya Torres tightened the straps on a diesel Land Cruiser. She used to moonlight filming audiobook fantasy narrations for her TikTok followers, but the platform had collapsed under bandwidth rationing. Now she cataloged black market drug routes on a hand-drawn map taped to the hood. To Sarnia and back, she said, tracing a line from Missouri through the shattered Midwest toward the Ontario border. We slip across Lake Huron on an ice runner, load up from a CVS warehouse north of London, then run the gauntlet home. Nathan pictured convoy raids he'd glimpsed on pirate live streams labeled better than the movie's audiobook. Tens of thousands tuned in at night, the footage doubling as audiobook for sleep for those who preferred gunfire over lullabies. A strange comfort in an era of scarcity. The gangs? He asked. Calling themselves the Sons of Valley Forge now, Maya replied. They grabbed half the state's National Guard armory last week. They've got a cyber-hijacked Tesla Semi as assault transport and a BMW R90 outfitted with uranium sniffers. If they catch wind, we're carrying meds. They'll carve us up and sell the serum on the dark line, Nathan finished. A tremor rippled through the asphalt. Far off, a plume of sepia smoke rose, blooming into a dark mushroom that chewed the horizon. The accidental nuke, detonated by amateurs who imagined themselves liberators, became a greasy smudge against the stars. Crowds swarmed the hospital gates within minutes, begging for iodine, water, hope. Nathan worked through midnight at a field table set outside the ambulance bay, triaging and calming. When the generators sputtered a final time, overhead ward monitors went black. Somewhere in pediatrics, a child's voice asked whether the world was ending or if this was an audiobook apocalypse streaming over the intercom by mistake. No one had an answer. By dawn, the sons of Valley Forge patrolled I-35 in commandeered Humvees, shaking down refugees for gasoline and geolocating any trucks rumored to haul pharmaceuticals. Nathan realized delay equaled death. He gathered volunteers, Maya, a former Coast Guard pilot named Lal Chong who still wore his flight jacket like a shield of memory, and Harper Quinn, a radio journalist who once reviewed audiobooks full-length bestsellers, but now used her archive of narrators as an underground news network. They loaded trauma gauze, what little potassium iodide remained, and a shortwave transmitter into the Land Cruiser. Maya slapped a magnetic decal over the license plate, Tesla's old lightning bolt logo, faded but recognizable. Lyle laughed at the irony, masking their diesel engine under the emblem of electric utopia. Harper tuned into a clandestine broadcast out of Detroit. The host, using the handled Midnight Musketeer, reported rumors that Elon Musk had quietly funded a relief caravan of self-driving Model Ys ferrying antibiotics from Windsor to Niagara. Some called it science fiction, audiobook sci-fi for desperate ears, but Nathan clutched the thought like a lifeline. They rolled north at noon under a sky bruised by particulate haze. Highway signs were riddled with bullet holes, rest stops lay gutted, vending machines upended for coins now worthless in hyperinflation. A billboard near St. Joseph once advertised a streaming service, unlimited stories, limitless imagination, your next adventure awaits. Someone had spray-painted over it, adventure is a lie. At dusk they reached the edge of what used to be Omaha, now a labyrinth of barricades flying the Valley Forge sigil, a stylized Liberty Bell bleeding red. Patrols wore surplus hazmat suits and toted shoulder-fired drones like boar spears. One guard flagged the Land Cruiser with a flick of laser light. Maya cut the engine. Lyle rested a pistol on the dashboard. Nathan's heartbeat sounded like footsteps in gravel. Harper cracked her knuckles and murmured, "Time to persuade." She popped the passenger door, stepping into the glare with hands raised and press credentials dangling around her neck like a relic from a vanished era. The guard approached, visor reflecting the last amber of day. Harper spoke calmly, her voice smooth, the practiced cadence of late-night narration. "I'm recording a humanitarian convoy audio log, better than the movie's audiobook style, for global release. Help us move medical aid to the exposure zones, and your story becomes immortal." Something in the phrase, maybe the echo of bedtime escapism everyone secretly missed, made the guard hesitate. Humanity flickered behind the visor. He gestured them through a service lane lined with gutted Teslas whose battery packs had been ripped out as makeshift power banks. Beyond the blockade, night swallowed the interstate. In the distance, the broken horizon of Council Bluffs burned like the coals of discarded dreams. Nathan drove, eyes fixed on the dark ribbon ahead, wondering how many dosimeters he would need once they crossed the fallout plume. The Land Cruiser's cabin filled with the soft hiss of Harper's recorder. "This is the first entry," she whispered, "a story for those who will piece together tomorrow from the ashes of tonight. If you find this file while searching for a lullaby, know it is no ordinary audiobook for sleep. It is a beacon." Her words hung between them like fragile glass ornaments, unsteady but luminous. Nathan squeezed the wheel, knuckles pale, and promised himself that when they returned he would rebuild St. Catherine's Ward, restock every shelf with Canadian medicines, and plant a garden in the parking lot where children could taste oranges again. He pictured the hospital bright and humming, the opposite of these hollow roads. He pictured his patients surviving, not just enduring. Behind them, a secondary explosion lit the southern horizon. The militias had found another warhead. The night bloomed twice, and the road ahead felt suddenly very thin. The interstate dissolves into shattered concrete by the time the Land Cruiser noses past the irradiated outskirts of Council Bluffs. Melted lamp posts lean like mourning widows over a blacktop pocked by heat blisters, each crater still exhaling wisps of burnt ozone. Dr. Nathan Keller keeps one eye on the hazy horizon and the other on the dosimeter wedged into the cracked cup holder. Its needle twitches a slow metronome of dread. 200 microsieverts and climbing. He should order everyone to don their charcoal respirators, but Maya Torres is already way ahead, tugging her mask in place as she kneels over the map spread across her knees. "If we cut through the Platte Reserve, we save 30 miles, she mutters. "But we'll kiss the fallout plume. Can't be worse than staying on I-80, grumbles Lal Chang from the back seat, tapping a grease-smudged tablet. The grainy satellite feed shows red blips, rogue drones patrolling interchange ramps like steel-winged vultures. Harper Quinn balances a shortwave mic between her palms, broadcasting a low-band update for listeners scanning the night for a pulse of truth. This is the roadside archivist. "We're an hour east of Ground Zero, heading for a cold border and a colder welcome. Keep recording. History is just another chapter in the catalog of audiobooks full-length bestsellers. Her voice rolls smooth, a hypnotic tide that still sounds like an audiobook for sleep even when the subject is annihilation. Static crackles, then a reply slips through from a scatternet repeater in Des Moines. Archivist, watch your 6. Sons of Valley Forge commandeered a Tesla semi with drone escort, last seen northbound near the Luss Hills Overlook. They're hunting anything marked medical. Makes sense, Maya sighs. That semi can outrun anything on diesel if they charged it before the grid died. Nathan thinks of Elon Musk's commercials bragging about quarter-million-mile batteries. Nobody predicted apocalypse mileage. Better than the movie's audiobook, he muses bitterly. Reality rewrites every script. They skirt the reserve at dusk, headlights off. The plains are strangely beautiful, muted bronze grass waving beneath radioactive ash drifting like gray snow. A gutted BMW 3 Series sits half-buried against a fence line, its emblem pried out. Somewhere inside the husk, coyotes have made a den, their eyes gleaming in the beam of Maya's flashlight. Still BMW classy, even as a coffin, lol jokes. No one laughs. 20 miles later the Land Cruiser coughs, the fuel gauge sinks. They siphon from an abandoned farm truck, packing hybrid jugs once used for pesticide. Harper records the moment, whispering, survival is an audiobook fantasy written word by word. So let's write louder. Near midnight they reach Fremont, Nebraska, once a quiet hub, now a bone-white skeleton of silos glowing beneath ultraviolet searchlights. A makeshift checkpoint blocks Main Street. Corrugated sheets bear the Valley Forge sigil. Men in has-cloaks pace with rifles. A generator thrums behind a gutted CVS pharmacy whose facade still promises open 24 hours. Looks like they emptied the meds already, Nathan says. Maybe not everything. Maya's eyes glint. We need iodine packs, broad-spectrum antibiotics. Let's see if they missed basement storage. Inside, aisles are trashed, pill blister packs torn open, bandages unrolled like party streamers. But downstairs, behind a toppled pallet, they find a climate-controlled vault the looters' Geiger wands must have ignored, cartons marked CVS Canada, Emergency Allocation, Windsor Depot. Nathan pries a lid, vials of filgrastim, still cold. Enough to treat hundreds. Footsteps clatter upstairs. Valley Forge Patrol. Maya hurls a surgical tray, Nathan jabs a tranquilizer into the guard's thigh. They drag him behind coolant tanks, load the crates, and slip back into the night as alarms erupt. Machine gun tracers chase them through shattered storefronts. Lyle guns the engine across a railroad bridge just as charges detonate behind them, twisting rebar like licorice. The firefight leaks something precious: time. By dawn the Tesla semi finds their trail, electric whines slicing the chill air. Drone escorts fan out, lenses glittering. Lyle swerves onto a service road flanked by derelict wind turbines. A homemade railgun slug screams into the cruiser's rear quarter panel. If you're drowsing to the stream thinking it's another calm audiobook apocalypse bedtime story, wake up. Harper's voice quivers over the mic. Maya pops the roof hatch, fires a flare into a turbine slicked with kerosene. Blades scythe down, the road clogs with wreckage, and the Tesla jackknifes while drones scatter like startled crows. 3 grim days unspool Pierre, Mobridge, 10 cities trading liters of diesel for bread. At Fort Yates they meet Lakota scouts who speak of an old trading trail threading stealthily across reservation land into Canada. Chayton, an elder with wind-lined eyes, inspects their cargo. Medicine for the sick, not bullets for the angry, that earns passage. He warns them of a corrupt state guard platoon camping 2 ridgelines west. They sell permits, then kill. So the convoy chooses the river. Hidden pontoons lash into an improvised ice runner. Northern lights shimmer faint green over a sky cleansed of city glow. Mid-current and amplified voice booms from the south bank. Unmarked vessel return to shore for inspection. Shotgun pellets ping off V-shaped shields forged from satellite dishes. Then a different hum rises, electric, harmonious. On the Canadian bank, headlights bloom. A convoy of autonomous Tesla Model YS slides into the shallows, doors butterflying like metallic swans. A recorded voice, unmistakably Musk, echoes over the water. Welcome, friends. Transportation is the bloodstream of civilization. Hop in. The guard hesitates, unwilling to fire on Canadian-flagged property. The Model YS form a luminous wall. The ice runner slips past into Ontario shallows. They reach a guarded CVS regional hub near London, Ontario. Pallets of antibiotics and chelators tower beneath floodlights. A logistics officer thanks them for intel on Valley Forge gangs. We'll double load for Missouri, but the border south is closing hard. Leave before sundown. While crates are strapped to the cruiser, a radio plays an old jingle for BMW's iNext, promising electric horizons. The irony stings, yet sparks laughter among volunteers. Outside the fence, thunder grows, not weather, but engines. Valley Forge raiders have bribed permits and swept north for vengeance. The officer curses, "Half an hour, no more." Nathan grips Harper's mic, "The next leg is pure adventure." If you're cataloging hope, file this under audiobooks full-length bestsellers, subcategory perseverance. And if you need a lullaby tonight, let it be the hum of diesel rolling toward dawn. Engines roar closer, dust rising like curtains about to part on Act 3. The floodlights around the London, Ontario CVS hub snapped to crimson alert just as the last pallet of cytokine boosters slid into the Land Cruiser's sagging cargo hold. Dr. Nathan Keller felt the hydraulic lift kiss asphalt and lock. Beyond the chain link, dust roiled up the access road in a furious spiral. Headlamps raked the perimeter, Valley Forge raiders arriving in a V formation, 3 armored pickups bristling with welded corrugate, a Tesla semi-purring silent menace behind, and a captured RC drone swarm buzzing overhead like chrome gnats itching for blood. Inside the cab, Maya Torres slammed the tailgate. "We're at overload," gnat suspensions crying. "Cry later," muttered Lyle Chong, hunkered behind the wheel, thumb hovering above the ignition. "If they breach the yard, we hand them meds for 1,000,000 burns. That's how many dead by next week." Harper Quinn clipped her mic to the seatbelt, speaking in that velvet cadence adored by midnight listeners, broadcasting live from the eye of the storm, no soundstage, no green screen, just raw adventure. If you tuned in hoping for an audiobook for sleep, disengage now. Reality's louder than lullabies. The CVS logistics officer waved frantic semaphore from a guard shack. "Northgate, now." A klaxon bellowed. Steel bollards slid underground, the Land Cruiser lurched forward, tires squealing under the weight of penicillin and filgrastim. Raiders opened fire, homemade flechettes pinging off reinforced fenders. The Tesla semi-flanked, its AI systems hijacked and weaponized. On the cab's LED grille, raiders had overlaid a burning Liberty Bell GIF. Lyle punched the accelerator. The cruiser fishtailed onto a service ramp that corkscrewed above rail yards glittering with tanker cars. Sparks ribboned the night as bullets kissed guardrails. Maya popped the roof hatch and launched a V-flare coded for Canadian Border Patrol. Scarlet magnesium seared an SOS across the sky, momentarily blinding the drone swarm. A split second of darkness enough. Lal gunned it off the ramp, landing on a gravel access lane. Suspension shrieked but held. "North to Goderich," Maya barked, studying the crumpled map. "We cut across Huron on ice floats, then Michigan backroads to the border. They can't follow over Broken Lake. Between us and the shore, 30 miles of farmland and a whole pack of Tesla-powered predators," Harper said. She flicked her recorder on again. "File note, we're rewriting the manual for audiobook apocalypse. Every mile a chapter." The convoy hammered through concession roads lined with reactor-quiet windmills. Cornfields lay blackened by acid rain, stalks ossified into silver sculptures. From rusty radio towers, pirated stations looped propaganda promising America resurgent, tariffs forge independence. Nathan's knuckles whitened around an isotype-stamped crate. Resurgent, he thought, while hospital wards drowned. They skirted Clinton in the small hours. At an abandoned BMW dealership, the raiders had set up a refuel depot, siphoning premium gas into Teslas retrofitted with small block generators, hybrid nightmares. Lyle dropped headlights, crawling past showrooms where shattered glass blanketed I-Series sedans like snowdrifts. Over the roof rack, Maya sighted armed sentries silhouetted by neon signage still flickering, the ultimate driving machine. She swallowed, the motto now sounded like a threat. "Have a click on," a culvert offered shelter. Nathan dismounted to check the dosimeter, radiation whisper low here, safe for a breather. He opened the tailgate, vials rattled like sacred wind chimes. Beside them rested Harper's battered field recorder. She sat cross-legged in gravel, narrating softly. For listeners cataloging courage, she intoned, "Bookmark this under audiobooks full-length bestsellers, prologue to Reclaiming Tomorrow." And yes, dear night shift souls, it's still better than the movie's audiobook because the real is real. Nathan crouched near. "Your audience, do they actually hear you?" Packet hops through dead satellites, ham relays, Musk's leftover Starlink nodes, she shrugged. "A trickle, but a trickle is a river if the night is long enough." At dawn they reached Goderich. Lake Huron lay sheeted in pancake ice, fissures spidering beneath a candy-pink sunrise. The harbor master, a retired Tesla engineer named Sigren, led them to a refrigerated barge retrofitted with lithium cells scavenged from Model S packs. "She'll glide silent," Sigren said, patting a frost-filmed rail. Elon Musk would weep for the warranty, but necessity overrules nostalgia. They loaded the cruiser onto the deck. As tug motors hummed, distant thunder rolled, Valley Forge raiders had reached town, too late for the prize yet eager for spoils. Mortar flashes blossomed on the bluff. Ice shattered behind the barge, geysers glittering. While throttled forward, the lithium array glowed cerulean beneath deck grates, propelling them into deep freeze. Mid-crossing, Harper set her mic on railings, letting the soundscape paint its own chapter, creaking flows, distant gunfire muffled by miles of mirroring cold, gulls screaming across borders indifferent to flags. Over the static she whispered a dream sequence riff, veering almost into audiobook fantasy, visions of children someday listening to this odyssey while snow tapped safe windows. Nathan watched the horizon for signs of drones, nothing but a lone aurora strand pulsing jade above the polar dusk. He allowed himself a sip of hope. They grounded near Harbor Beach, Michigan, shoreline pitted by winter storms. Local militia flags snapped in iron wind. At the ramp, an armed checkpoint blocked County 25, men in patchwork fatigues under the banner of the Michigan Secession Authority, MSA. Their captain bore insignia scavenged from a decommissioned CVS security uniform, the irony not lost on Nathan. Manifest and tithing, the captain barked, eyeing the overladen truck. 30% tariff on all foreign goods entering sovereign Michigan. Maya leaned out, humanitarian aid, not trade. Human is business. He slapped the quarter panel. Pay or unload. Harper toggled her recorder to external speaker. A roar of angry citizen call signs burst from it. Ham operators, nurses, parents yelling for medicine. Their voices echoed off frozen dunes, an army invisible yet undeniable. The captain hesitated. While revved, Maya flicked headlights to strobe. The militia flinched. In that heartbeat, a siren blared behind them, MSA's own radio patching through an emergency override. Valley Forge raiders sighted crossing Port Austin. All units redeploy north. The checkpoint scrambled. Tires spat sand. The path was clear. They sped inland along cracked asphalt through empty Amish fields now planted with scrap turbines. In Bad Axe, they took refuge inside a shuttered Walmart converted into a triage ward. Volunteers unloaded precious vials under hushed cheers, kids with iodine-stained lips, parents clutching blister packs like jewels. Nathan administered the first filgrastim injection to a teenager whose radiation burns ribboned her shoulders. The girl's mother wept, whispering a thank you retold by every trembling hand in line. Nathan's chest tightened, purpose was a drug stronger than morphine. As night drew over the prairie, radio chatter warned that the Sons of Valley Forge had split. Half racing toward Detroit to seize control of the Ambassador Bridge, half diverting south along I-75 intercept course. The Land Cruiser, now lighter, still held a core cache bound for Kansas City. Time bled away. Harper cued another transmission. Insomniac travelers, this isn't an audiobook sci-fi idol. But if your eyelids sag, hold on. We will outrun the dark. A chime of encrypted relays bounced her vow across 5 states. Day 3 on U.S. soil, gas scarce, nerves threadbare, they approached the Ohio Turnpike interchange. Here, corrupted state authorities operated a toll hospital, entry fee 1 dose of whatever miracle cure you hauled. Governor commissioned privateers in Kevlar patrolled beneath LED billboards, still looping campaign slogans about tariff patriotism. Maya killed the engine beneath an overpass plastered with wheat paste posters, hand-drawn Tesla rockets crossed out by skull symbols. She sketched a new route south, old rail corridors, then barge along the Ohio River into Missouri. But we'll need fuel and a diversion. Harper thumbed her sat phone's last satellite minutes. Time to weaponize story. She aired a live piece announcing, exclusive interview tonight with Doctor Nathan Keller, frontline hero delivering antidotes beyond price. Stream expires in 2 hours, catch it or miss the cure. She dangled coordinates not of their convoy but of the toll hospital checkpoint. Listeners hungry for hope flocked, hundreds of refugees, off-grid med techs, even rogue Tesla autopods seeking fame. The privateers, smelling profit, funneled resources toward crowd control, leaving the southern freight spur unguarded. Under darkness, the Land Cruiser slipped onto rusted rails. Lyle-rigged truck tires with grooved adapters scavenged from a derailed BMW freight wagon. Electric sparks danced as steel met steel, and they coasted downhill by gravity, a phantom locomotive carrying lifeblood for a bleeding nation. At Cincinnati, the rail dipped under a derelict stadium now sheltering thousands. Harper illuminated the underside with her phone, barrel fires, patchwork blankets, children chalk drawing rockets, and writing, "Musk save US." At the edge of light, a violinist played minor chords that fluttered like moth wings. Nathan felt sorrow swell into determination. They guided the cruiser onto a rusty barge leased from river pirates trading bourbon for ammunition. Diesel fumes mingled with cold river spray as they headed west. Above, a winter moon painted the Ohio silver. Behind, city lights winked out block by block, rolling blackouts sweeping grids. Maya stood beside Nathan at the bow. Border Patrol south of St. Louis set up radiation scans, she said. They'll flag any truck this hot. Let them scan, Nathan replied. We'll have cured half their children by the time they finish paperwork. His voice cracked, but resolve rang clear. Harper leaned over the railing, mic close to lips. Dear Night Hearts, the river carries us toward the last mile. File this tale wherever you store courage, next to epics, next to lullabies, next to that secret playlist labeled audiobook for sleep you won't admit you need. Because someday, when shelves are full again, when tariffs are footnotes and BMW badges shine without bullet holes, you'll whisper to new ears that hope rolled downstream under a January moon. Bookmark that. Distant thunder rolled a rocket volley or collapsing bridge, no telling. The barge engine thrummed steady, and Nathan allowed himself one deep breath scented with diesel, frost, and the faint spice of tomorrow. The barge cleaved the Ohio long after midnight, diesel growl echoing between limestone bluffs. Dr. Nathan Keller huddled inside the wheelbox, tracing condensation rivers on the cracked plexiglass. Every few minutes he checked the cooler stacked at his feet, vials still luminescent, 73% battery left on the portable chiller. Enough. It had to be enough. Harper Quinn's voice drifted from deck speakers, a low lull weaving through the slap of water. If you joined us hoping for background noise, remember this isn't your ordinary audiobook for sleep. Tonight's river chapter writes itself in gunmetal ink, part adventure, part prayer. She paused, letting static hum like cymbals. Log cataloged under audiobooks full-length bestsellers, subtag, Border Miracles. Maya Torres leaned against the hatch, blowing frost clouds. Bridge in 3 miles, she whispered. Missouri State Patrol's radiation gate is lit like Vegas. Our truck will scream hotter than July. Nathan rubbed his temples. Hyperinflation figures scrolled through his memory, bread at $300 a loaf, gasoline priced in silver coins. None of it mattered if marrow-suppressed children never saw sunrise. We push, he said. Crash the gate with data, show them dosage charts, survival curves. No bureaucrat likes being live-streamed denying medicine. Downriver, the dark hulks of shipping containers formed an improvised pontoon across the current, State Patrol's checkpoint. Generator towers bathed the water in harsh white, Geiger arches pulsed amber. As the barge throttled down, loud hailers crackled, prepare for inspection. Identify cargo. Lal Chong killed the engine. Harper opened the channel wide, broadcasting on every emergency band. Frontline triage convoy carrying anti-radiation supplies from Canada, courtesy of CVS Humanitarian Corps, bound for Kansas City blast zone. Live transmission flagged to global cloud, any obstruction becomes public record. Over. Silence, broken by the cough of anxious rifles. Then an officer in riot Kevlar shouted back, tariff protocols require seizure of foreign pharmaceuticals pending classification. He sounded afraid of his own demand. Nathan stepped onto the bow, spotlight washing him pale. Classification is life, officer. Newborns with beta burns can't wait for paperwork. A pregnant pause until a voice from the checkpoint PA interrupted, tinny yet unmistakable, Elon Musk, or rather a deepfake relay sampled from a Tesla shareholder keynote. Logistics is destiny. Let the car go through. The recording looped twice before technocrats yanked the feed, but the damage was done. Troopers glanced at each other, uncertain which chain of command they served. A fresh complication roared upriver, Valley Forge's Tesla semi-hurtling atop the levee, drones haloed above like angry fireflies. Its lithium roar eclipsed the checkpoint's generator hum. Raiders fired a volley into the guard towers, floodlights exploded in showers of glass. Chaos chose its side. Maya revved the land cruiser inside the barge hold. We're rolling off now. Dock clamps released with a metallic shriek. The barge rammed the shoreline mudflat, the cruiser leapt down the ramp, suspension sighing. Nathan clung to the grab bar as Lyle punched through a gap between toppled containers, mud spraying into starlight. Behind them, the checkpoint dissolved into a brawl, State Patrol fighting raiders, tracer rounds stitching the night. Drone rotors hacked air above the cruiser until Harper pointed a jury-rigged EMP coil through the sunroof. The blast lobbed a pulse that sent 4 drones spiraling into black water. They gained the levee road, headlights off. Ahead, St. Louis flickered like a dying constellation, segments of grid winking out, warehouses lit by diesel flares, the gateway arch a ghost outline against orange haze. Radio chatter spiked, Forge units converging on Mercy Hospital for surgical hostages, requesting backup. Nathan's stomach sank. Mercy sat on the path to Kansas City. Its pediatric wing housed dozens already prepped for marrow boosters. "We divert," he ordered. "Those kids can't be bargaining chips." Urban warfare greeted them at Grand Avenue, pickup truck barricades, civilians waving white pillowcases scrawled with "Water please." Lal threaded the cruiser through rubble until a Molotov shattered nearby, scorching pain. A youth gang, skinny teens wearing plasma goggles stolen from a BMW dealership's service bay, blocked the entrance to Mercy with motocross bikes modified to run on Tesla battery modules. They revved like electric hornets. Maya swung out, shotgun leveled. "Medical evac. Clear the way." A boy barely 16 stepped forward. "They took my sister inside," said, "only kids with cash get treated." Nathan lifted his stethoscope like a banner. "We have meds. Let us through, and she's first in line." His calm broke the tension, handlebars lowered, engines idled. Together they shoved aside burned-out sedans to carve a corridor to the ER ramp. Inside, hallways smelled of bleach and panic. Staff were hunkered in radiology, power flickering from backup inverters rigged to Tesla power walls cannibalized from a local solar farm. Nathan set up an ad hoc infusion station in the cafeteria. He mixed vials while Harper's recorder captured the metallic drip cadence, overlaying soft narration. Not every apocalypse arrives with mushroom clouds, some creep in on tariff ledgers and supply chain graphs, sneaking marrow from bones until voices fade. Tonight we write marrow back in. Raiders breached a side lobby 10 minutes later, firing warning shots. Their leader, a scar-cheeked zealot in a repainted CVS pharmacist coat, demanded the cargo. "That serum funds our sovereign republic," he sneered. "Hand it over or watch kids drop." Harper, still broadcasting live, pivoted her mic toward him. "Say it again for the world feed," she challenged. The zealot looked into that unblinking eye of history and hesitated. In the pause, Lyle lobbed a tear gas shell, Maya dragged a gurney barricade across the aisle, and Nathan shielded children beneath overturned tables. Gunfire erupted. Neo-pharmacist Zeal met ex-Coast Guard pistol. Amid smoke and screams, Nathan crawled to a supply cart, clutching a final filgrastim vial like a holy relic. A ricochet split fluorescent tubing above, spraying saline rain. As bullets cracked, he injected the vial into the arm of the zealot leader's own hostage, a fevered 8-year-old boy coughing bloody foam. The child's mother wailed relief through tear gas haze. The zealot froze, weapon sagging as he watched the tremors in the boy's limbs subside. Tactical sirens crescendoed outside, state patrol units, shamed by earlier equivocation, arriving in armored BMW Riot Guard SUVs once destined for export to Europe. Their bullhorns ordered surrender. Valley Forge scattered, some diving through shattered windows, others slipping into maintenance tunnels. Nathan felt the hospital floor tilt, the adrenaline drop when disaster recedes a hair's breadth. He pressed bandages into wounds, triaged, redosed. At dawn, the cafeteria smelled of stale coffee, cordite, and something fragile yet potent, hope. They rolled west on I-70, convoy swelling. 2 Riot Guard SUVs escorting, a Tesla Model Y autopod packed with 4 fluids, the original Land Cruiser still groaning but lighter. Harper broadcast near continuous, listeners climbing into tens of thousands. Comments scrolled across pirated satellite bands, people trading coordinates, pooling fuel, offering safe houses. Someone tagged the stream better than the movie's audiobook, irony morphing into anthem. In Colombia, they gassed up from a decommissioned tractor running biodiesel rendered from spoiled soybean oil. Radio news crackled. President Trump's administration, cornered by international sanctions and internal revolt, suspended universal tariffs and pledged emergency air corridors with, of all partners, China. The commentator called it a logic pivot worthy of audiobook sci-fi. Nathan laughed, a sound halfway to sob. "Too late for Kansas City grocery aisles," he muttered, "but maybe not too late for the next city." Approaching the outskirts of KC, fallout monitors ticked higher, sooty snow dotted the midday sky. St. Catherine's loomed ahead, windows still boarded but generators humming newborn life, power restored via a sprawling array of Tesla power walls donated anonymously after Harper's broadcasts went viral. Rumor named Elon Musk himself, though no proof surfaced beyond a midnight tweet pinging only 3 words: "Keep roads open." Inside the ER bay, survivors lined hallways. Nurses wept at the sight of pallet crates. Nathan worked 18 straight hours, hands blistering under latex, voice hoarse from mask-filtered air. He administered the final vial at sunrise to a grandmother who handed him a faded photo of her garden, rows of sunflowers taller than fences. "Plant these again," she rasped. He pocketed the seeds. 3 days later, ration stations outside the hospital buzzed with life. Mercy's pediatric evacuees danced in the parking lot, for poles trailing like parade banners. State Patrol reopened a 2-lane corridor to Iowa for supply convoys. Tariffs lay in limbo, battered by public fury and corporate revolt. Harper climbed the hospital roof at dusk, recorder held high. For the archives, she announced, voice trembling as much from wind as emotion, this concludes the first cycle of the River Run Chronicles. We file it under audiobook Apocalypse no more, but under Renaissance Draft 1. She beckoned Nathan, Maya, and Lal to join the mic. Nathan cleared his throat. If some future listener finds this file mislabeled under audiobook fantasy, let them know it was all real: rust, fear, laughter, and the taste of iodine tablets. He exhaled a shaky breath. And if you need a lullaby, let the hum of power walls remind you we can rebuild. Below, floodlights illuminated a garden plot freshly tilled in the hospital lot. Volunteers knelt planting sunflower seeds by headlamp glow. Someone painted a new sign over the ambulance entrance: St. Catherine's Tariff-Free Zone, sponsored by CVS and Community. A BMW badge salvaged from riot-scarred streets hung beneath it, polished to silver shine. Maya gazed east where dawn would rise. Supply chains will heal, she said. But trust, that's the harder rebuild. Harper clicked stop, then looked at her friends. Every epic needs an epilogue. For now, we'll shelve this beside bedside classics and call it what the comments keep shouting: audiobooks full-length bestsellers. Or maybe just call it surviving. Lyle raised a thermos of stale coffee. To surviving, better than any blockbuster. They drank to the fragile quiet. In the hush, engine noises echoed from distant highways, new caravans gathering courage from stories whispered through static. Somewhere beyond the horizon, tariffs still loomed, currencies still crumbled, but so did walls of silence. And in the soft electric cradle of Kansas City, children began to heal.